Well, everybody, we have two for the price of one: a bowler hat farmer and a direct democracy advocate. I don't know. This everybody's in for a terrific treat this evening. What we're going to do today is to talk about there's an event being staged in London next week on the 19th of November to support the farmers. Everybody is now realising that a famine will be on the way if farmers are not supported. And so tonight we've got Mark Byford, the bowler hat farmer, and Allan Shipham from Direct Democracy. It's a pleasure to have you both on. Mark, I'm going to start with you as the farmer, and let's have a little roundup of what is going to happen next Tuesday.
Okay, well, the principle of this, Liz, is obviously the government has been smashing the farming industry to bits for the last few years, and this isn't a Labour thing, let's be honest. This has been going on under Conservatives as well. This is a WEF agenda playing out, we know that. But I think what the big thing in this all is here is that we have to get the public to understand this isn't about supporting the farmers necessarily. This is about supporting us, each and every one of us, to be able to eat, feed our family, feed our children, grandchildren in the future. So, you know, as I've said in my videos this week, this isn't necessarily about the fact of, yes, I understand from the farming community side, they've got this massive challenge now of inheritance tax. And I've seen various people say, oh, yes, but, you know, over £1 million worth of assets, £1 million is sweet Fanny Adams when you've got land, you know, and people like Dyson and Bill Gates and everybody else have forced the price of land up so high now that this isn't a case of it, you know, it's £4,000 or £5,000 an acre and you need, you know, 500 acres to be able to. This is, you only want a few acres now to get to £1 million. You know, where we are, agricultural land is at £30,000 a bloody acre. You know, you've got to understand now that this is now the last throes of them taking over a land grab. That's what this is about. So from my side, you know, my passionate bit here, but this really is, you know, I enjoy growing food, whether that be potatoes, whether that be a turkey. I don't care what it is. I just enjoy growing food like most farmers. That right is being taken away from us on a day-to-day basis, and we are going to end up within the next few weeks. You know, we've already lost 32% of our imported food has been lost with what's happened in Spain in the last couple of weeks. We've seen California get destroyed. This is all chipping away at what's available worldwide, not just for us. This, you know, people say this is just an England problem. We're going to import this. Are you heckers like? This is about an absolute shutdown of worldwide food system, and it's coming in really, really fast. So Tuesday for us is about getting in front of the government in en masse and getting them to understand they have to take this back. They've got, and we're not talking just about the inheritance tax side here. This is about looking at the whole farming agenda. You know, you're now seeing it come out in America that obviously Kennedy is now looking at natural food. He's looking at getting sustainable farming back together. He's looking at putting good quality food on the table, pulling the pharmaceutical industry to bits, the big agri to bits. That's what we need to be doing. And if the government doesn't step up, and let's be honest, Liz, Allan, I think you'll both agree, we know they're not going to step up because this is not part of their agenda to step up. This is about smashing the industry, what's left of it, to the ground. And when that hillock of a politician, you know, that ex-politician said yesterday, you know, well, we'll do to the farmers what they did to the miners. You just have to think to yourself, where do these people live? And cut off their Tesco delivery. End of.
I couldn't agree with you more, Mark. You know, we are in absolute dire straits. And unfortunately, as you said earlier, this started way back, not just with this government. Since the EU, we have finished with the EU, the subsidies that we used to get before we joined the EU have not been put back in place. I'm old enough, as you can see by the white hair, when Dad was farming, to know about how farming was supported long before we went into the EU. And of course, the excuse is now, pull the plug on agriculture, don't give them anything. And that's exactly where we're coming from. Yeah. It's frightening. Now, I want to pull Allan in just for a second, Mark, because on Saturday, we all met in Derbyshire,
Yep.
and Allan came along, and he is a direct democracy advocate, as in
Democracy
Spain, as in Switzerland. They have, yes, Spain, as in Switzerland. Everybody is allowed to vote on serious issues. So, Allan, tell the audience, please, what we did on Saturday.
Okay, so Saturday was the Great Resist, which is a gathering of like-minded people who are noticing things that all seem to be going wrong at the same time. And there was a platform then for various people to speak about the thing that they're passionate about. For me, is direct democracy. I look at the way politics has been going for a while now, and it's very worrying to me. And I stood as candidate in various elections, never got elected, so I don't know if I'm a politician or not, because I did the battle, but I didn't actually win the fight. You know, that's not strictly true. Actually, I was on the UKIP side in 2014 when we won the European elections. But apart from that, as an individual candidate, I never actually won an election. But I stepped away from the mainstream politics because it all seemed to be crooked, you know, and it didn't seem to be what it was. I found direct democracy and started doing some research. I connected with other people around the country, and we're all part of a movement. It's not a political party. You know, we meet up, we discuss things, we share the experiences. It's not just Switzerland. There's a lot of countries around the world, and they have different models. Democracy, if you break it down into the Greek, is democracy, which is people and then power. But direct democracy is direct people power, and that's the bit you've got to remember. Is we go back to when the Greeks used it. You know, everyone gathered in a town centre. If there was a problem, they have a vote on it, and we make a decision and go with the majority. It's, you know, not perfect. There's a lot of issues and problems around the countries which do use it, but they're a lot more richer and they're a lot more happier than we are. And there's also fundamental things like, you know, not a lot of them as a people don't decide not to go to war, which, you know, we're fighting these wars in foreign countries and making enemies, you know, about people we've never met, and we don't really know the reason why. People getting rich, you know, the big pharmaceuticals and the munitions companies. So there just seems to be, you know, something wrong here. Now on Saturday, I gave my speech, and as part of the speech, to demonstrate democracy in a community, and this was a community, the people who turned up for the meeting. We had so many seats, but there was a lot more people there than there should have been. So this is from my presentation. I don't know if you can see that. And we actually asked them something topical. On this occasion, it was about the farmers. The statement was UK farmers and their supporters should be allowed to protest on the 19th of November about the changes in taxation that have been imposed on them. This was on the back of the statement from the National Farmers Union that said, you don't need to protest because we're going to have a meeting with the Labour Party and sort it all out. I summarise there. A lot of people don't trust what's going on, and they feel that they should protest anyway. And at the time, the police, you know, I don't know what they'd said, but the idea was it wasn't going to happen. I understand now the police have said that they can protest, so arrangements are being made. But something quite remarkable happened at that meeting, in that I went around with a clipboard and gave them this option to support the farmers or, you know, dispute it. And we have to respect, you know, sometimes when people say no, there's a reason behind it. You know, and that's the thing about democracy. It's not all yes vote. But out of the room, 100% of the people said that they supported the farmers. And of course, when Mark did his speech, I went to the stage and announced that. And the roar of the people in the audience, you know, they were fully behind. But I respect everything that Mark's just said there, and I'll go further and say I think the farmers are missing an opportunity here, because it is about the rest of the community, and they should be encouraging everyone to come out, because, you know, this political party has got to power, they've made promises, they ain't done any of the promises, and they've done loads of things they didn't promise, which are actually harming us.
Yeah.
And there's initiatives like we've been asked to bring food, like to a big food bank, and then people will be coming and taking it away. Well, you've got a lot of people like pensioners who are hard up now because of these cuts. There's an opportunity. Let's get some pensioners down there because they can take the food away that's being given to the bank.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alan, very much. It was encouraging, Mark, as I'm sure you'll agree, who stood there as a farmer, to know that, and I'm sure if you look at the country, there will probably be a couple of percentage that might not back the farmers, but I should think everybody realizes they have to eat, and they've got to eat properly, they've got to eat good food, and the only way we can get it is if you, the farmer, produces it.
Absolutely. And I think I was watching a video Gareth Wynne-Jones did earlier, and that's a classic to me. He said, build Britain back better on your belly. And that's absolutely right, because unfortunately, one of the things he said in his video today was, about people, and I genuinely see this, people genuinely believe that supermarkets make food. They don't see, they're going in and the shelf's full and they go, oh, supermarket's full of food, that's all right. They don't see, to back up one supermarket, there's hundreds upon hundreds of farmers and farming staff and, processing plants and, butchers and bakers and bloody candlestick makers that are in the background producing all this stuff to go in there. And people just have no idea. We're so detached these days from where food comes from, right from every aspect. When we were all kids, you went to school, you were taught how to grow food, you were taught how to cook food, we all knew about food. There was 101 TV programs about food. Now, what is it? You go in, you put it in a microwave, you press ping, and in 3 minutes' time, your dinner's done. Well, I don't want to be part of that, I have to say. And I think what the government needs to realise is that nor do a lot of other people. And I think a lot of people are waking up to the fact that we are about to go hungry. And that is a really concerning thing, because, I said in my last video, which I've put out today, that what worries me in all of this, and I genuinely mean scares me as a dad and a granddad, what really, really scares me is the fact that if the farmers get the ump next week and they get, I'm guessing you've heard now that they're physically going out on strike. So anyone who can, that supplies supermarkets has been told not to supply anything for a 7-day period. Okay, so farmers that supply anything, just go to work, do what you got to do, but don't release any food from the farm. Now, if that goes on a week and they don't get the result they want, what next? Do we go for 2 weeks? Do we go for a month? Do we start blockading the ports? There's all these possibilities, and I don't think that, if Tesco's or Sainsbury's, whoever it might be, think that they're going to start flying stuff in, there's enough tractors to, bear in mind there's 100,000 farmers. There must be, I don't know, I'm going to hazard a guess, 400,000 or 500,000 tractors in the UK. Probably a bloody million, you know what I mean? And if everybody decides to take a tractor and just drive up to a supermarket, whether that be the entrance to the supermarket, the distribution centre, or the local dock where the food comes in through, this country's an island. We're in trouble. We don't produce enough food to be in the position of feeding the nation anyway. Now, if the farmers decide to really cop the ump and decide they're going to stop this food moving, the nation is in trouble. And the nation have got to accept that the farmers, if they do not do this now and pull the government to heel, then we are letting not ourselves down, we're letting our kids down and our grandkids down. And that, to me, is not acceptable.
It's totally not, Mark. We all understand where you're coming from. Most of us, and certainly people in the country, the people in the country understand entirely, Mark, because we've all been born and brought up. And the problem for me is the city dwellers, those in high-rise flats and what have you. Many of them have got no idea how it all works. They have no idea about food cycles, etc. And secondly, I mean, you start looking at the shelves in supermarkets now, and we have over the last 12 months, things have been disappearing. For instance, you know, half a pound of butter in Sainsbury's now, Country Life butter, £3.16
Yep.
for half a pound of butter.
Yep.
You know, and they tell you there's no inflation. I can tell you what it was last year. You know, so I mean, and that's Sainsbury's. You can get it cheaper, exactly a pound cheaper, if you go to Home Bargains.
Yeah.
You know, people have to, but there are no alternatives now. There has always been 3 or 4 local farm butters, if you like, on this, but there isn't anymore. There's one. And, you know, people just don't see, as long as there's something there, they don't see what's really going on.
I don't know if you saw, there was a post out earlier from Jeff Bezos, the Amazon guy. He's just put up a £7.3 million grant to British cattle farmers to help them reduce methane by vaccination. You know, you just got, what are this lot on? You know, they must have a big farm somewhere hidden up that they think they're going to feed themselves from. That's all I can think, because, you know, anyone with any level of any intelligence surely wouldn't want to think to themselves, I'll get rid of all the food on the planet, because it doesn't matter. You know, the other side to this is, as we all know here, if you reduce the food supply and you control the food supply, you've got to do a lot less work for a lot more money. Right. And that's the bottom line to this. You know, if you've got someone like, you know, Bill Gates, who's, you know, got his bug factories all set up to get burgers out for us in a hurry, you're going to be in a position really quickly where you can turn that tap on. Be assured they know where they're going with this. We all know where they're going, but the public don't understand it. And the public needs to really, really catch up with us guys, and see this really for what it is. This is not about inheritance tax. This is about pulling the food industry as it is absolutely to bits and starving us lot out on the way through.
I think that's absolutely fine, Mark. You're right. It's not about the inheritance tax, although of course that is a huge part for a small farm. You were so rightly saying, not only is the price of land, you've only got to look at the price of a tractor these days, the price of a combine and any other part of the machinery that goes in there without any animal stock or any other type of stock. I mean, the whole thing is just ridiculous. It's because people have got a farm now with a couple of acres. It says farm on the gate. And of course, the most of the land has been sucked into another part of the somebody else's farm. So that's where that's come from. And of course, Bill Gates was here 2 days before the budget with Rachel Reeves. And if you look at what's happened in America and how much land he's bought there, you know, you can just see it all happening here. Well, hold fast, farmers. We're behind you. You do your bit, we'll do ours. Alan, what say you?
Well, yeah, we have to look at what's happening. And, you know, the reason that it's become obvious that they're picking on the farmers is because they've got something. And like you said earlier, it's not about, you know, a big fat bank account, but it's land, it's property, it's been inherited. The family's worked on that farm for a long time now, in a lot of cases. And, you know, they want to take it away. But we have to remember back to, you know, the Second World War. You know, there was the ghettos, and they put the Jews in them, and they said, you know, oh, this is a really good idea. It's propaganda, you know. And most of the people in Germany probably thought, oh, it sounds like a good idea. And of course, you know, there's that poem, you know, they came for the Jews. I said nothing because I'm not a Jew. And then, you know, they came for me, and there was no one then to speak for me. So we've seen right now, we're heading it up straight away. This isn't about the farmers. This is about all of us. And we need everybody to get behind the farmers. Because this is exactly what you said about, you know, the 2030 agenda, and the fact checkers have said, oh yeah, it's not nothing to do with that, but everything I completely echo and endorse. You know, and this, you know, I'm not a farmer. I know farmers. I've got friends that are farmers. You know, and we talk about stuff, but you know, this will be somebody else next. And you know, you said about the people who farm the food and produce it and package it. There's the transport people that move it around, the people who sell it in the shops, you know. And remember back when during COVID we ran out of toilet roll, You know, it was one store, then another, and it was all over Facebook. Well, Morrison's have run out. Oh, Tesco's have run out. And then, you know, B&Q got some from somewhere. So everyone was storming into there. You know, it becomes opportunity then, you know, and that's obviously when people get hurt. So, you know, we need to head this up before it gets too bad. You know, and that's why a lot of people are going up to London on Tuesday next week.
Right, Mark. What do we do on Tuesday?
Get to London to start with. We're going into the to West Bank. We're going to the coaches are going to drop us there. We're going to walk to Westminster. At this point, there's no final destination as a starting point issued because obviously, as I said, the problem they've got is that the police keep changing the boundaries because of how many people are on this application to go. They obviously know that probably 50% of people are not going to register. That on its own causes an issue for organisers because, you know, if they think they're going down one route and there's, you know, 10 times the amount of people, Liz, Allan, I think there's going to be a vast amount of people there. I genuinely, you know, if there isn't 100,000 plus people there, I'll be surprised. I don't think, you know, and that's without whatever carnage attractors will cause on their own because they're going to be there. We know that. We know there's massive amounts of tractors going to head into the city. We're actually going down. We've got a coach going down from our town. We've booked and, you know, and selling seats for. I spoke to some of the guys in Derbyshire today. You know, they're booking 10, 20 coaches at a time. You know, there's farmers booking up to go literally all over the country, and the public joining them. This is, and I can't emphasise this enough, this is not about farmers going to London. This is about the population is about to find out what starvation is. And if they want to do something about this, before it kicks into place, they need to get their asses into London and make a stand against this sodding government.
Yeah, absolutely. The four horsemen of the apocalypse, if you go back to it, and you know they've tried the pestilence with the COVID. We've got war going on all over the place.
Yeah. And
what else do you need? You need famine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know this. I can't see this government, with a bit of luck, lasting until the early part of next year. I think this will bring it to its knees. I'm hoping it'll bring it to its knees and we'll have a general election next year. And with Trump in America and with the amount of work and the straightforward way that he appears to be tackling everything, he's got to get into power first to make sure it's carried out. But he's looking good. So if we can do that over there and we do it over here, we'll be back on track.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's, you know, I obviously was at the event on Saturday. Both Ben Habib there and Andrew Bridgen, both, you know, one an ex-MEP, one an ex-MP, two people who just speak absolute sense about where we are. And, you know, there's a lot of good politicians out there. Unfortunately, you know, I think a lot of them are misguided because, you know, they have to work with a whip or whatever else. But unfortunately, there is now a time that they need to step up. If we're not going to go, you know, most of the country at this point still follows the democracy road that we believe exists inside Parliament. You know, Allan, I've heard you, you know, you speak now. You know, I've followed the movement. I'm behind what you talk about. But unfortunately, a lot of people do still follow the system and they genuinely believe that that's the way forward. And it might be if we had the right people in power. Unfortunately, at this point, we've got to not only remove the people at the top, there's a lot of people inside that 650 politicians that if they're prepared to starve the public out, we need to start with them, I'm afraid. I think, you know, whoever delivers the fruit and the veg and the food into Parliament needs to just cut it off.
There's an easy way that this can be prevented, isn't there? An easy way it can be prevented, and that's the government says we've had to think about it. We're not sure about the last budget, so you know everything's on ice. We're going to have proper consultations, and you know we've got some problems ahead anyway. We've heard about Valencia, and you said that we get a lot of food from there. Was it 30%?
32% of our imported food, yeah.
Yeah, and we know that the problems in Valencia were nothing to do with global warming. It was all about rewilding, you know, the breaking down of dams and things like that. That wasn't on the news, you know, and that's the thing which this event that we went to on Saturday, it wasn't a negative thing. It was really,
No.
really positive, you know, and I think you both agree with me on that. And the feedback I've heard has been marvelous since. You know, people are waking up, and there's that saying, once you wake up, you can't go back to sleep. And, you know, we're sharing it, and that's a positive message. Let's find a way out of this before it gets worse.
Absolutely. I mean, Liz, I think from anybody who was there on Saturday and knows the hard work what you've put into to get these off the ground, and really identifies with that. You know, I've kindly been allowed to speak at two of them now. I was one I couldn't come to. I was poorly. You kindly put me on stage on a video screen. When you first started putting these on in the early days, you know, you were drawing an audience, but not like the audience now. This time you're completely sold out. Loads of people wanting to get to it. I know the next one which you're talking about is going to be in Thetford. I've already got people asking me where do they get tickets from. So for me, that says this is a growing, you know, whether you want to call it a cause, a movement, whatever it is, it's growing. People are waking up. And I think that the next 14 days is going to wake up the country. I don't think it's just going to wake up a few more people. What we need is a few hungry bellies. That will really focus people's minds.
I think you're absolutely right. Mark and Alan, I can't thank you enough. This tonight is just to put everybody on alert for next Tuesday. Everybody to London, and everybody in the most positive way support our farming agricultural industry, and therefore the government will wake up to the fact that it has two duties. One is to protect its people. Two, it is to feed its people. And as it's not going to be able to do either of those by the way things are going, they need a wake-up call, and we're there to do it for you. Mark, Alan, thank you very much.
Liz, one last thing before you take off. One last thing, and this is really important because there's going to be a lot of people watching this. Stock up on food and do not get caught out. You've been warned.
I would say like and share this video with the people that you care about, because there's been important messages in here.
Yeah. Liz, thank you. Alan.
Fantastic.